Good evening. Would you stand with me for the invocation and pledge of allegiance, please?
We just ask that you would give them wisdom, give them discernment as they discuss the issues of life, and that we spirit of unity and respect, Lord, as they discuss things that will impact the citizens of Vienna. Thank you so much. We pray we ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, before you sit down, would you hand me the clipboard, please, off your I don't have to do it anymore. She was close. This evening we have two people that have signed up to speak at the public forum. So the first this evening is Jack Heater.
Good evening. My name is Jack Heater, 4301 Sandalwood Place. Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Congratulations for those of you that ran for re-election, and congratulations to the newer electors. So tonight, the new year starts, so I'm here again. I have a few things I'd like to make comments on, and mainly is things I would hope the Council would find time within their schedule this year to address, at least address, if not to make comments out or questions on. So the first one, public comments. I am a strong believer that the public comments at this meeting should or must be in the official minutes of City Council. This was brought up last year by the other council, and for some unknown reasons and unexplained reasons, it was defeated. I would hope by having new members on the council that someone would bring it up again, open the discussion, and perhaps we can at least find out what the objections are. It would be nice to know why somebody voted no. It's easy to say yes. But if you want to say no, you should have the nerve to say why I vote no on a topic. Secondly, animal control. I have been here numerous times talking about animals, talking about walking and dogs approaching me, friendly or unfriendly animals. So tonight I come with a proposal. We pay the Humane Society over $30,000 a year for animal control. Call that number. They're going to say, call the Vienna Police Department. So what do we get with that money? My opinion, I get nothing for it. That's what they tell me. So why can't we not consider putting no new monies in the budget, because I know we don't want to hire anybody new, don't want to spend any new monies, make this a contracted position, an individual contractor. You hire that person does that contract work. Oh, it costs you an X amount of dollars per month. They furnish everything themselves to use, and they, whatever you determine a job description to be, that's what it is. Just a suggestion. No new monies were involved. Street paving. Didn't see any last year. As time goes on, potholes get bigger, get more numerous. If we don't jump on it pretty soon, the monies we have allotted through last year will not cover what's coming up for this year. So hopefully, that this year, there will be an incentive to do some street repair work in this community. All you got to do is drive through town, thump, thump, bang, bang. And it's only January, folks. We've only had one snow. If we get some snows and we get some salt, street crew does a wonderful job. I'm not blaming them at all. I would complain if they didn't put the salt on the road or clean them. But they do, and that creates a problem. So perhaps we can address that this year. drainage. Several times last year, people approached the council about drainage or lack of drainage after heavy rains within this city. And that is true. There's a lot of areas that have poor or no drainage. Every time it comes up is, well, it's only because Pond Run cannot handle any more water. Why don't we do a study of Pond Run? See why it won't handle more water. See what we can do to get that waterway to carry more water. We can approach DNR, EPA, several agencies out there will probably even help us do this. So if we're going to put up on Pond Run, let's address Pond Run. If we can't address the water spilling up in the streets because of Pond Run, then let's address what the problem is. Complete the Mansfield property. Folks, we have spent lots and lots and lots of money on the Mansfield property. Do we have any return on it yet? None that I can see. Financial return. We really need to get aggressive to try to get our money back from that property. Fantastic property. Not complaining about the property. Spencer's Landing's wonderful. Makes no money for us, though, does it? Spencer Landing makes a dime, other than it's nice to have. So we need to aggressively pursue some avenues to get a return on that money. Police fee. Boy, without doubt, we have the best police department in the Ohio Valley, bar none. But my understanding is my police fee does not necessarily go to the police department. It goes into the general fund of this agency. I personally want it to go to the police department. Let them determine what to do with their money. Not to put in the general budget to do whatever we want to with. So if I'm paying that police fee, I want to show up in the police department line item.
Jack, how many more items do you have?
I'm down to where I'm going to say thank you for providing me the time and to voice my concern, and I'll answer any questions or comments anybody wants to meet with me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Greg Frazier.
Good evening, Greg Frazier, 1210 22nd Street here in Vienna. Just a couple of things I want to comment on tonight. First is the suggested appointment of Mr. Leach to the VUB. I'm opposed to that for the reasons as I speak. Number one, he's on the Planning Commission. Number two, he's on Budget and Finance Committee already. He's a liaison to the John Mansfield Planning Commission. I think he's probably wearing too many hats. I suggest that Kim Williams be appointed to that position. She has attended a lot of utility board meetings in the last 2 years. I think she has a good working knowledge of it. And I have no axe to grind with anybody because I didn't vote for Jim and I didn't vote for Kim. It's just, I think it's best for the citizens of Vienna. Also, I wanted to talk about, as Jack highlighted, the minutes, public forum, minutes to public forum. I don't understand why that's not on there. At the candidates meeting, we had 2 of them before the election. Kim, you said you would support it. Tom, you said you would support it. Jim wasn't there. I didn't ask Randy. Melissa, you said you would support it. Roger, you weren't there. Mike, you said you'd support it. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 4 votes. That should be on the council agenda next time, and it should pass. No questions asked. The next thing I'd like to talk about is a complex for the kids. I've talked about this before, from 12 to 18. There's nothing for them to do. I brought it up at the candidates forum meeting that showed some support from some of the candidates. There's one over in South Side, the Elite. I think we could support one here. There's nothing for the kids to do in that age range. We've got plenty of parks and slides for the little kids to go down, but there's nothing for the older kids. And Mr. Azinger, one of your concerns was drugs, and that's a target group right there. And if we could find something for those kids to do, I think it'd be outstanding. It's going to cost some money, but I think it's well well needed, and I think you could appoint a committee of different citizens to look into it, to see what it's going to cost, how it's going to affect business, how do we pay for it. And that's it. Thank you.
I'd like to call to order this regular session of the Vienna City Council for January the 14th, 2021. Let the record reflect that I've taken roll, that all members of council are present. Having a quorum, we will proceed. The minutes from the council meeting held on December the 10th, 2020 have been printed, posted, and circulated. Are there any corrections to the minutes? If there are no objections, and the minutes will stand approved as posted. Report of the treasurer, Mr. Leach.
Reconciliation of funds for the city of Vienna dated January 11, 2021. I've reviewed the accounts. The accounts appear in order, and the city is solvent and in good standing.
All right, thank you. First item on our agenda this evening under unfinished business is an ordinance on second reading requiring a public utility to post bond to pay for damages to public property and requiring them to notify the city when they are present to work, where they are working, and what work they are performing. I'll entertain a motion on second reading for the ordinance requiring the public utility to post a bond to pay for the damages to public property and requiring them to notify the city when they are present to work, where they are working, and what work they are performing.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve on second reading the ordinance. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, then I'll call for the question. All those in favor on second reading, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed? Motion carries on second reading. Moving on to new business, first item on our agenda this evening is a resolution approving Jim Leach as a representative to the Vienna Utility Board. Be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Vienna that the Vienna Council member Jim Leach is hereby appointed to serve on the Vienna Council as the Vienna Council representative to the Vienna Utility Board for one full term, said term to begin upon approval of council and ending December 31st, 2020. Before I ask for the motion, I would like to clarify a statement that was made previously. Mr. Leach does wear several hats for the city, but Mr. Leach will no longer be a member of the Planning Commission. That will be filled by another council member. He is on the Finance Committee, and he will remain in that position. But Mr. Leach has a master's degree in environmental law. He is extremely knowledgeable about many things when it comes to...
I'm gonna step out while you guys continue this discussion.
That'll be fine. Mr. Leach has a master's degree in environmental law, and he is without a doubt one of the hardest working people that I've ever seen, and he does a lot of things at the Manville Project simply because of his knowledge and his experience over the years in those kind of areas. So I do believe he is the most qualified member of council, and he brings to the table a wealth of knowledge that will help the utility board do a better job. So having said that, I'd like to entertain a motion for the approval of the appointment of Jim Leach to the Vienna Utility Board.
So moved.
Am I allowed to second it?
What?
Okay.
We're not
Okay, so I'm,
voting member of council.
okay.
It's the same as any other, he has the same authority as any other council member.
Okay, so I'm going to second that motion, all right? Is there any discussion?
No, thank you for giving your input on, addressing why you felt like he was the best person. That's helpful.
No further discussion, then I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the appointment of Jim Leach to the Vienna Utility Board, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed? Motion fails.
I'd like to make a motion to put Kim Williams on utility board.
It's not on the agenda, Mike. You can't do that.
It's not, the only thing that was on the agenda was the resolution for
Okay.
Jim. We'll have to put it on the next council meeting for whomever, whomever is suggested to serve. But there has to be somebody from council to serve as the council representative.
All right, I make a motion, or I ask that the Kim Williams to put on the agenda for next week as a representative for Vienna Utility Board.
Please add that to the agenda, please. Okay. Second item on our agenda this evening is a resolution approving the use of govdeals.com as an online auction platform. Mr. Leach, would you take us through that, please?
So to explain this a little bit, anyone that was present at council meeting when this first came up and was tabled, govdeals is an auction platform used by municipalities, different government entities across the country to liquidate excess inventory. And they do things a little bit differently. This is merely a platform, and on this platform, actually the city of Vienna is conducting the auction. We accumulate the items to be listed. We provide the description, any photographs, all the information related to those items. We're able to set reserves with respect to if the item doesn't meet the reserve, then the transaction's not concluded. In addition, it has the ability to, if a bidder looks at one particular item that the city has listed, then there's also a tab that allows you to view the other seller's assets, so it would list everything that we have for sale. And that's important because sometimes if somebody's committed to one item and they're a successful bidder and they know they have to come and collect it, then they'll look at other items that we have. The other benefit of it is we don't have to accumulate everything for a single auction like you do in your traditional auction where you gather it all up, you advertise it, you try to get as many people as you come. So it's kind of a rolling format where you can just at any period, whenever you have things coming up that are excess for whatever reason, those can be added just periodically throughout the year. The other thing with respect to govdeals is that it is a buyer's premium only, so there's no cost to the city of Vienna to conduct the auction. And it's got a pretty broad following in terms of, if you register as a buyer on govdeals, there's no charge to register. So you've got a pretty broad audience with respect to govdeals. So as we considered this and listened to some people that came and talked about this and reviewed the other proposals, it was determined in the Budget and Finance Committee that was a recommendation to council to consider govdeals as the online format for the city of Vienna to liquidate what has now been a number of vehicles and other items that have been accumulated for sale. And so that's the format. I can answer any questions. Those are kind of the highlights that come to my mind in terms of why it is in the city's best interest to do so. So I don't know if I've covered everything, but we did, well, a couple of other things. I'm sorry, just a couple of other things. We did look at like municipal bid, high bid, which is another that was considered, does charge a seller's premium, and there is a cost to the city to participate on that format. There's a number of entities in West Virginia that use govdeals already. I think there was a report that the city of Parkersburg had just liquidated some assets through that platform and was satisfied with the outcome. And I think those, as I said, are the highlights that I can think of. So I'm happy to take any questions.
I'd just like to make one more comment before you open it up, Jim. When we originally had the discussion last week, or last meeting, and one of the local auctioneers came to talk about this, after going back and researching with Russ some of the particulars that go through this as far as licensing and what have you, it was determined that with this particular type of internet platform, you don't really need an auctioneer. And so our finance department and Amy Roberts has agreed to take this project on. And, you know, I believe it'll work just fine. We don't need to go outside the city for an auctioneering firm. This on govdeals. It was very easy to use, and I believe that we can do it in-house, and there will be no costs incurred at all. So that's the reason why that this is being put forth. We're not going to select an auction house based on the ease of this platform. We believe that we can do it ourselves. All right. Okay.
Any questions?
Well, I have a few questions. So what's our estimated auction total that you have on the auction list?
The list is attached. It should have been in the Dropbox for you.
Yeah, I have the list. I've read the list. What do you value? What do you think that's gonna bring?
Well, Kim, it's an auction. We have no idea.
Here's what I suggest that we do with respect to that, Kim.
Yeah.
So you've got a number of vehicles, right, that you see on the list.
Mhm.
Many of those are on 100,000, some are excess city equipment, some are forfeitures. When you do the auction, you can attach a PDF to the bottom. So for example, anything that's subject to like an NADA or Kelly Blue Book valuation, we put in that information. You know, the best way to bring the best money to the auction is a good description, good photographs, clean the equipment before you put it up, attach a PDF that gives you, again, the information that will give you some estimate, and I think that we should do that. We should run the vehicles that are subject to that kind of valuation, and that will give us at least some estimate. Now, they're not gonna bring that kind of money. You know, things don't bring like retail value even on apartments, right? So that's my suggestion as to how we at least get some sense of the valuation of this equipment.
So the reason I asked that question is I have been doing online auctions since 1998, so I have a lot of experience with auctions online. You know, when something's free, it's always the hidden cost. And what concerns me about the way this is being presented, although I do like the idea of govdeals, and I know Parkersburg uses it, etc. But what concerns me about it is when Ms. Mayor said that Amy was going to spearhead this, that we start taking department heads, and Amy's like the highest paid employee that we have, and we're going to start doing this during budget season. And so there's hidden cost there. It's not free, okay? And so I think that's not been discussed of what that cost is going to be. So I've real concerns about that, and I understand that what you're saying, you could do it at a rolling auction, but you're going to have to put in a legal notice every time, correct?
Yes.
I think that every time that you auctioned items, you would have to put a legal notice in, but I don't think you have to do a legal notice for every item. Let me see if I can explain it. What my proposal is, or what my suggestion is as far as the legal notice is, you, each time you're going to have an auction, I don't think it's pragmatic to do a legal notice for every auction that you have. So I think that the most reasonable way is to save up a group of items that you're going to sell, have a legal notice listing out that group of items that meets all the legal notice requirements, which is to, say where the items are that are going to be sold, say where they're going to be sold, say what the items are, and essentially how long the auctions are going to be open with. Now, if you were to have larger items that you wanted to perhaps auction on govdeals, larger pieces of equipment, something that is significant that would justify the cost of running a legal notice, that'd be fine. I don't think it's practical to do a legal notice for each $5 item that you have. That's silly. So the proposal in the proposal that's before you tonight is one, to adopt govdeals, and then after we've adopted govdeals as a platform to have an account, then to have this group of items be done under one legal notice, and then that legal notice would point to the account that the city has, and then say when those items are going to be sold. I think that's what you're asking.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
Does this have to be specific, this resolution, where you're specifying that it's govdeals? In other words, can you leave this open to where it's just online auctions?
Well, I don't think, well, no, I don't think so. And here's why I say that. The different platforms have been reviewed to look to see what the costs are. I mean, I suppose that you could do it for, if you don't have a platform chosen, then it doesn't matter what your auction items are, you have to have somewhere to sell it. So I suppose that you could elect to do another site. Council could approve the items for sale and then elect to use that site to sell them as an auction. I don't think you're married to one account or one platform, if that's what you're asking.
Well, yeah, because I didn't understand, because by this resolution, then you're putting yourself in the position of govdeals.
For this
For-
only,
for
for only
this
this
auction.
auction.
For just for this
For
auction.
this auction, I
For
don't,
this auction.
yeah, I mean, practically speaking, I don't think you want to sit, unless the costs are somehow changing or beneficial. I don't think that the city is ever married to GovDeals forever, the same way that an individual person isn't married to eBay or whatever.
Right.
If there's a better platform, you move. But I think that what this allows the city to do is to open up an account with GovDeals and then use it as an auction for, say, the next auction. If that goes well, we can use that same account without having to come back to council and get approval and just do the notice for the next auction. And then if something comes up, council could certainly approve moving to one of the other auction platforms. This isn't set GovDeals in stone forever.
Okay, that was my question, because, and that's why I was concerned about what we realistically thought these items were going to bring, because I agree with you 100%, Mr. Leach, that the better pictures, the better description is going to bring better money. But in order to do that, I think that we're kind of minimizing the amount of time that takes. I can tell you, I have 20 plus years of experience in that. So I believe that online auction, especially given COVID right now, is probably the best thing for us to do. But I wonder at what cost. And I know we did have an auctioneer who came in here, and he did quote what he would charge us, a percentage of the sale, which, in my opinion, I've gone to live auctions for 20 plus years as well. His fee seemed to be a little on the high side, and I'm just curious, as if we had a situation where we had an auctioneer do it, had a lower fee, we would end up paying less money to have those items auctioned, and we wouldn't have the responsibility of having to take the pictures, write the listings, follow up with the emails, and so on and so forth.
Any other comments?
Yeah, will Amy have a team of people or somebody else is helping with pictures and that kind of thing?
Absolutely. It's not going to be, Amy has already created a form that each department will fill out for each of the pieces of equipment, listing all the particulars. This particular auction is not going to be as simple as what Kim's are, because we're not talking about rings or watches or whatever. These are vehicles that some of them are, they're confiscated assets from drug deals and things like that, and other ones are worn out, pieces of equipment that are being sold for parts. So it's going to be very difficult to determine a value simply by looking at an NADA book, because a lot of these are high mileage things that have been run through the ringer that we're just simply trying to get rid of because we have no use for them. And so, but at any rate, yes, she has a team of people already set up to take the pictures, do the information, and whatever a department head feels is excess equipment will be noted on the sheets, which we will then supply with the auction to tell the things that are, wrong. We obviously want to be as honest and forthcoming as we can about these things, because they are vehicles for the most part.
And we're gonna let city employees vote, right? I mean, we're gonna let bid on that, city employees.
I'm sorry, Mike.
Are we gonna let city employees bid on?
Because it's an
yeah.
online auction, there's no
right.
reason not
That's
to. Tom?
Does the money from the items confiscated from the drug deal, does that go to a special fund?
Yes, it does.
Fund our drug task force?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, we won't be auctioning any money off. Yeah, we don't get to keep that.
I have another question, if I may. So GovDeals, when you sign up for GovDeals, there's a probation period, is that correct, for 30 days, you can, and then there's one for 60 days and 90 days?
As a buyer, you're talking about?
Yes.
I didn't look at that specifically, but as I recall, you're allowed to bid up to a certain amount in your first auction. And you have that probation period to guarantee performance that anybody that bids. And the other nice thing about it is if you don't fulfill the contract after you bid, you're barred. But you can also post a bond, basically, and then gain full rights. So you have the buyers that you're dealing with are vetted and proven performers, or they're limited to what, say for example, they might be able to bid on a mower deck, but they don't have enough credentials to bid on a car until they escalate to that. So yeah, they've got a pretty, and the other nice thing about this is once an item's sold, the requirements to get that out of our way are very strict. You have 10 days, it's solely the buyer's responsibility to arrange pickup, packing, shipping. We don't have to touch it at that point. So, to the point of what is the hidden cost with respect to preparing these items for sale, I know that already a lot of this is already accumulated, photographic vehicles, descriptions, and so on. And I was kind of thinking I would run those book values on the vehicles that would be subject to them just to get it done. It's probably 30 seconds per vehicle. But we have, once it's sold, we have no responsibility. They have to, and if they default, then same thing. There's pretty significant consequences. They run a pretty tight ship.
Sure. So the way I understand how the probation period works is like when you sign up, because I did sign up. You're on a 30-day probation period, and so you're allowed to bid on 3 items. Then after 60 days, you can bid on 6 items, 30 or 90 days, whatever. So it kind of makes it limited. I know there's like 15 vehicles on this if you're going to do these all at once or in groups. Then for people who buy for resale or whatever, they're going to be limited to just be able to purchase 3 items. So it kind of depresses your price because you can't go out and buy. You can't bid on other things.
Well, that's for neophytes, but the vast amount of community on govdeals, are established buyers who do this regularly. So that's a short term. So that might go to Mike's point, with respect of somebody, that's a city employee from the city, they might be limited in what they can do if they haven't done this before. But beyond that, it's just kind of a maturity, just like anything else. You earn your reputation, your credibility before. And we can look at the.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yeah. That's not the case if you go to an auction, a live auction. I understand that's not on the table, but it is a limiting factor.
For sure, at a live auction, you often have to, depending on what it is, you have a bank letter, a bond, or whatever. So often there are that's a gatekeeper function.
Sure.
So you keep people that aren't able to perform, because that's the last thing you want to do is do all the, do this, conduct this auction, and then have people not fail to perform once they're the winning bidder. That's true in any.
There's one thing I'd like to caution, and I can't recall what our ordinance says, and I'm going to have to look at it for a second. For any auction for the disposition of the sale of property for elected officials, I would check with the Ethics Commission, but my concern is that you can authorize the disposition of the sale of municipal property. I think you're under the Ethics Act, even if the city had an ordinance, I think under the Ethics Act, you're probably barred from bidding on it. So I would check on that. Off the top of my head, that's my recollection of the ethics opinion, and I can get you an answer for sure. The second, as far as the disposition or sale, and again, I'll have to look at our ordinance because it's been several years since we changed it, but there was a conversation about whether or not city employees were barred, and as I sit here, I think that modification failed, but I'll pull the ordinance and have that ready for next time. But for the elected officials, again, if you are able to authorize the sale or disposition of municipal property, I'm confident as I sit here that you would be barred from buying it, even at an auction.
Well, with respect, I'm looking at the terms now. There's a prohibition, this is unless it's disclosed. You cannot bid on your own asset or listing. So I think anyone that's elected and would authorize this would be barred from bidding on any asset. the govdeals terminology.
Right. Their term of service says you can't run a bid on stuff, which makes sense.
Any further discussion? Then I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the resolution approving the use of govdeals.com as an online auction platform. Be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Vienna that it hereby approves govdeals.com as the city's online auction platform service for purposes of the selling, disposing, or conveying of city property, and authorizes the mayor and finance director to administer the same. Further, the mayor, finance director, their agents or assigns are authorized to publish as is required by West Virginia Code 8-12-18B a Class 2 legal notice notifying the public of the location of the online auction sale and the list of items to be auctioned/sold.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We approve the resolution approving the use of govdeals.com as an online auction platform. Is there any discussion? Yes. Hearing none, then I'll call for the question. All in favor of the resolution, please signify by raising your right hand. Okay. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
And before we move to the next item, if the mayor is okay. Vienna Municipal Code 107.05, it was conveyance of city property without auction. There is a provision A5. Any full or part-time employee, elected official, or their immediate family members, business partners, or associates are expressly prohibited from purchasing any public property under this article except at public auction unless otherwise prohibited by statute. So our ordinance doesn't prohibit the public officials or the city employees, but I would still say with respect to the elected officials, regardless of what our ordinance says, there may be a prohibition, okay?
I would say that the term govdeals prohibits it as well, the way I read it. None of us would like to get on any of these items.
Okay. All right. So the second item on our agenda, the third item, excuse me, is the resolution authorizing for sale by internet auction of the personal property, including vehicles, police cruisers, and other property items. Mr. Skogstad, if you'll read those items, please. If you want, that'd be great.
A list of items set for auction. 2009 Pontiac G6, mileage 106,424 miles. Last four numbers of VIN 6290. And I'm going to skip some of this since it's posted on the board. So a 2006 Chevrolet Malibu, last four VIN 9633. A 2004 Crown Victoria, last four VIN 0453. 2004 Jeep Laredo, last four VIN 4267. 2005 Dodge Durango, last four the VIN 9682. A 2006 Dodge Charger, last four VIN 1109. 2007 Honda Odyssey, VIN 6566. 2009, or I'm sorry, 2000. Let's see. 2007 Honda Odyssey 6566. 2007 Dodge Charger 2680. 2009 Dodge Charger 6000. 2013 Nissan Sentra, VIN 3407. A 1993 John Deere tractor. Last four numbers of VIN 15-4W. A 2008 Mercury, last four VIN 0859. A 2006 GMC 2500. Four-wheel drive, last number of VIN 6704. 2008 Ford Escape, VIN 6475. A 6-foot finishing mower. A 61-inch Turf Tiger mower. A 48-inch Ferris mower. A large John Deere with 3 mower decks. A 2004 Crown Vic, mileage 107,798. 2003 GMC 3/4 ton with dump bed, mileage 109,666. 2003 Dodge Dakota, 108,681. A 2000 two-wheel drive green mule. A 6-foot field groomer. A 5-foot drag box listed as damaged. A dog warden box per truck. I don't know what the parens is there. It says at PW. 2004 Dodge Mariner. 1987 air compressor, Sol Air. Last four serial 2WFO. A hydraulic hammer, serial ending in 6616.
That means that Public Works.
Oh, is that what it was?
It's up at 60th Street. This is a resolution authorizing for sale by internet auction of personal property, not real estate, including vehicles, police cruisers, and other property items. As per West Virginia Code, ASH-8-12-18B, and Vienna Municipal Code 107.05C, the City of Vienna hereby offers for sale the following items. Mr. Skogstad read the list of items for you with these qualifications. Further, for all police cruisers/vehicles, if sold to a duly authorized state, county, district, municipality, or federal agency employing one or more persons whose responsibility is the enforcement of the laws of any state, county, or municipality, or their equipment, or their equivalent, may be sold with lights, sirens, radios, cages, or any other law enforcement related equipment attached to or installed in the vehicle. Should any police cruiser/vehicle be sold to an individual or entity that is not a law enforcement agency as set out above, then said vehicle shall be sold without any of the law enforcement related equipment as set out above. Any solicitation of a police cruiser/vehicle shall reflect the same. Any law enforcement agency may, at the request of the city, be required to prove that they are a law enforcement agency. Further, the mayor, finance director, their agents or assigns are authorized to publish, as is required by West Virginia Code 8-12-18B, a Class 2 legal notice notifying the public of the logic of the sale and the items to be auctioned or sold. I'll entertain a motion for the approval of this resolution authorizing for sale by internet auction of the list and description of items previously read.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the resolution authorizing the list and description of items to be sold. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, then I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the resolution, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. The next item on our agenda this evening is General Fund Budget Revision Number 2. Mr. Leach.
2021 General Fund Budget Revision Number 2, item number 1, under Parks, 540-15, buildings and grounds. This is authorization for the painting of the Jackson Park light poles. This money was originally budgeted in the prior budget year, was not brought forward. As you may recall, when we first put this out for bid, we did not receive any bids, and then we got a bid from All Star Paving, and this is for bringing this budget item forward into our current budget year and authorizing the payment for the painting of the light poles, which has already been completed. Can we get the retail for all of them before we?
Yes.
All right, item number 2 under Parks, 540-15, maintenance buildings and grounds, repair of electrical at Spencer Park. Current budget 67,125. This is an increase of 3750 for the Parks Department, bringing the total budget allocation to 70,875. I'm going to go ahead and jump down to fire. This is 515, maintenance buildings and ground. This is the other half of the repair of the electrical at Spencer Park. And again, this is a split between the two departments. It's 3750. The total project is 7,500. Chief Scholl talked with us about what the issues are with the electrical service at Spencer Park. The last item under Parks, 540-8, capital outlay other reinforcement donations to Sam's Club for the completion of Neil Cook Cemetery. Current budget amount 55,000, increase of 5,000 to attribute capital funds from Sam's, bringing the budget total to 60,000. As I understand, that will complete the Cook Cemetery project there inside the city.
Yes, it is correct, and we have received 2 donations for the last 2 years from Sam's in the amount of $2,500 apiece for a total donation of $5,000. That money needs to be carried forward. The rest of the money for the final leg of the cemetery down there is in this year's budget. And so this will simply bring the money forward that has been donated by Sam's Club this year.
I think the only item here, which are the funds, are the electrical service at Spencer's Park. Keep in mind, Board and Chairman, which is what we did at the Budget and Finance meeting.
Yes.
What this did was, last year before we thought we was gonna have an ice cream social, brought the electrician in to look at the electrical service into the park that we use on the bottom half of it. And he had to put a couple Band-Aids on it just to get it to work. What has happened in there, that system is 20 plus years old, and if you open the box and it's just corroded something awful, it's unsafe. Part of the ground straps have been stolen. The concern is, it's not going to function just during the ice cream social, but also with all those water splash events we have in the park. Everybody knows water and electricity doesn't mix. This is a major safety factor in there. Someone gets a hold of that and even the water gets in, it's going to shock one or multiple people, if not kill them, when this is in there. And like I say, when we plug our stuff in for the ice cream social, it could have the same effect. But the stuff is it's old. The wrong equipment was put in there originally. We had that done by some individuals, and basically it was just the wrong equipment put in, and it's just unsafe, and it's a major liability to the city to leave it as is. Any questions?
Tom, you had a question? Oh, okay. All right. Thank you, Steve. I'll entertain a motion for the approval of general fund budget revision number 2.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve general fund budget revision number 2. Any discussion, Tom?
The sign, the money's for the cemetery. Is there any thought been given to redoing that sign? Yeah, I think that cemetery has some of the original founders back in the 18th century buried there. That sign is nice, but I think a lot more people would visit if we had a much better project before we put the sign.
Okay, we can take a look at that, but that's not in this budget revision. That's a separate thing. But we'll take a look at it. All right?
Just a suggestion.
No, that's fine. The sign that's down there is real small, right?
Yeah,
It's very like 1 by 1 or something.
yeah, old people like me can't read it.
Yeah.
I think something like what Jack brought forward with, I can see a different historical markers like Jack had in council chambers a few months ago.
There are veterans in that cemetery from 7 wars. 7. That's how far back that goes.
I think it goes back to the early 1800s.
It does.
I think we have Revolutionary War.
Yes, we do. Yeah. We have that all documented, so. Okay, so any further discussion? Hearing none, then I'll call for the question. All those in favor of general fund budget revision number 2, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, motion carries. Did you get first motion and second? There we go. Item number 5 is going to be pulled. That we don't need approval to go out for a bid. Once the bid comes back, then it'll be brought to council for approval. This is a budget item, and it should not have been on the agenda, so it'll be pulled. And once the bid is received, then it will come back to council. Item number 6 is a discussion by the IT department on security cameras. Chris?
Good evening. All right, so I came to Budget and Finance just this past Tuesday, and was asking for a budget revision to purchase new cameras. I purchased 7 of these new cameras that I was looking to go to last year. I purchased them, say probably in December, I believe it was, when we made that purchase. As of, and then I was looking to finish it out and replace the remaining 100 and some cameras that we have with these newer cameras. And then when I went to Budget and Finance, Jim and I had a discussion about it, about what it would take to increase, or what it would take to bring our current infrastructure up to par to get it to where it needed to go. So, with the help of a very good friend who does this stuff more than I do with the cameras, he brought me a bunch of stuff on this, on a comparison between Ubiquiti, which is the current system that we have, and Verkada, the other system that we have, which is where I'm looking to go. The difference between some of the two, one of the main highlights that I want to discuss on it is the NVR storage costs, and NVR, would be a network video recorder. The NVR cost for storage to obtain 90 days of storage of 24/7 coverage of a video on premise would be pretty pricey. I believe it was, how big was that? About a
Chris, if you're going to reference Joe, you'll need to bring him up there with you so they can hear.
I'm sorry. All right, I'll bring Joe Sams up from BizTech. Joe Sams is BizTech is a platinum vendor for all places, and we use them quite often on some stuff. So Joe referenced a cost of just the storage alone to do what we can do with the Verkada system, and it was, for the storage itself, was how much?
The storage requirements that we were given was 90 days retention of continuous recording. The quality was, I want to say 5 megapixels. With server and redundancy, including the archive, the cost was $135,000.
And that's just the storage. That's not to upgrade the cameras or to bring the cameras up to date to where they need to be. And also we have to look at network traffic. Ubiquiti uses 7.5 megapixels, or excuse me, megabytes per second per camera bandwidth on your network, where Verkada uses 20 kilobytes. The difference between those is, to break it out, it's one byte is 8 bits, which is 1024 bits is 1 kilobyte. 1024 kilobytes is 1 meg. 1024 megabytes is 1 gig. So that kind of gives you a little bit of a reference of how much bandwidth that the Ubiquiti uses versus the Verkada. Also, recently, since we had our discussion on there, I got an email from Ubiquiti, and the email stated, and this went out to all Ubiquiti customers. It stated that, it says, "Dear customers, we recently became aware of an unauthorized access to certain of our information technology systems hosted by a third party. We have no indication that there have been unauthorized activity, but with respect to users' accounts," he says, "we currently are aware of evidence of access to any databases that host user data, but we cannot be certain that it was not exposed." So that being said, Ubiquiti got hacked. Also, the cameras that we have in the current NVR, the NVRs that we are running went end of life January 1, 2021. Right here. Starting January 1st, 2021, all available Unify video resources will be focused on Unify Protect to accelerate its development in terms of features, scalability, security, cautions, efforts. Basically, everything that we have now is no longer supported. There's no more security being written for it. And I have all of these documents. I can send every bit of this to you, but this one here is a forum list, and there's probably, I don't know, I want to say probably 10 pages of comments of people complaining, wanting to know how or why they can, how they can get their current stuff to work with the new system, and Ubiquity pretty much stating it's not. Upgrade or we're not going to support it.
Excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt you, Chris.
Uh-huh.
This is a discussion we had the other morning, right?
Yes, sir.
This is with the Protect. It's the requirement of the NVR, right? The cameras are not obsolete. The Scott, you can go, you can like me, I mean, I haven't done this research, but my understanding is that, yes, you do have to use a different NVR, a couple of different platforms from Ubiquity. But the cameras themselves, if you upgrade to the NVR, then your security is to their current protocol. And it's just like anyone else. I mean, I'm sure that Ricotta and anyone, this is just a part of the nature of the business.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but let's make that clarification.
Yeah, so,
If you upgrade the NVRs, the cameras, because I asked Amy, and she sent me this invoice where we bought these cameras in 2016. And that was another question I had, because, this was for maybe, I think, a total of roughly 70 cameras, and you told me 50 cameras had failed. So, and I'd asked you for one?
I have 4 of them sitting in my office right now.
Anyway, so I want to get clarification on that. I mean, you can upgrade the NVR and get to their current platform, is that correct?
absolutely, the upgrade would be on the back end.
Right.
One thing that they are moving away from is they are no longer supporting like a bare metal install of the NVR, which is what you guys have. So a server with their software installed on it. They only will support now appliances. So you'd have to have multiple appliances as you continue to go forward and get the G4 and the G5 product. And they have a limit of, even set at a very low quality, of 50 cameras per.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about that we're gonna go one direction or another, because I know the Ricotta's where the high sensitivity areas, fire department, police department, but the wholesale replacement, particularly in the climate we're in right now with COVID and everything
Right.
else, sort of in our budget,
Yeah.
the wholesale upgrade of the system is what I was taking into.
Yeah, you can certainly upgrade the back end and use the cameras that you have.
How many total cameras do we have?
With the Verkada with the Ubiquity cameras, we had 119. And I have 7 of the new Verkadas sitting in place now.
What do you mean sitting in place? What?
They're in production. Sorry, I have 7 of the new Verkada cameras in production. That's what we purchased last year.
And then one other point with respect to the storage quotes that you gave. I mean, I think right now Ubiquities are set to report on motion. What you're talking
Some
about
of them are,
is,
some
so
of them
we got
aren't.
a camera in the park looking at a tree, all right, and if you record that 24/7, sure, all right, but if it only records on motion, you've got a different circumstance, so that's a little bit apples and oranges, right? I mean, what you talked about was all of our cameras reporting 24/7, regardless of activity, motion, or anything, correct? And I realize with Ricotta, you're saying that you do have that feature.
Yes.
That they're always on, you have 90 days. Let me ask this. So, with your 90-day window that you have, then what does it do? It peels off the recordings on day 91, right?
Yep.
And so on. And you can download anything that you want month within that 90-day window that you want to keep, correct?
Hold on, apparently it's time for me to take my medicine.
But you have that 90 days, so anything you want to download.
You have that 90 days to, okay, with the Verkada system, you have that 90 days to archive something.
Right.
Once you archive it, you have unlimited storage on the Amazon workspace to store that. You don't have to download it. It can stay archived for as long as we have our service.
Yeah, I remember that.
One of the other things that I wanted to talk about here on that. What was it? That was the security breach. Well, apparently I needed to go take my medicine because I don't remember what I wanted to talk about now.
Jim, I do remember that, and I know you and I battled the last 4 years over anything, but I commend you for your research. You always do a good job in your research. So we just bought, in 2016, we spent $70,000 on these cameras. Is that what you're saying? Because I remember voting on it, but they weren't.
I don't think it was 70,000. I don't know.
70 cameras, 21,000.
Yeah,
70
21
cameras.
Yeah,
Okay.
21,000, 70 cameras.
70 cameras.
Yeah,
okay.
and what they did is and looking at, I looked at the quote and the invoice as well, and what they purchased was they purchased a software version of the network video recorder. And what the software version is sitting on is it's sitting on old Dell computers that used to be workstations that got too old to work as a workstation. So they threw a bunch of hard drives in them, bunch of memory in them, put a Linux software on it, and that's all it ran was the NVR, which is not bad. But that being said, those Dell computers, they do have a lifespan. And that lifespan is probably about 11 years old now for those computers, I would say. Give or take, maybe 2 to 3 years one way or the other. Just from the model numbers on them, I know they're pretty outdated. Because I don't think Dell hasn't made those computers in, I know, at least eight years that I can remember. So with with respect to the new system, this I remember now what I was going to talk about. It's like Tourette's. It just pops out. I was talking with Joe and working with Verkada. Verkada is they're in their year end right now, so they are scratching for every sale that they can get. So we have extreme buying power with them right now. To where we can get these cameras that, crazy, like 5% above cost pricing. Isn't that what you said? Wasn't that what it was? 35. Or 35% discount,
But,
which is.
I think one of the things you were speaking to 5 years ago, 6 years ago, the spend on. I'm sorry, I'm too short. The spend on the ubiquity. They have, and a lot of technology has planned obsolescence, and it's about that 3 to 5 year range where you respend. The Verkada product, they're a software company that has got into cameras, and they have a 10-year warranty with their product. So this spend, I think a lot of the value is the spend is good for 10 years, and that means updates and new features. They all will be applied to your product with no additional cost. So I think when you look at the direction to go, and we actually sell both Ubiquity and Verkada. The Verkada product for a municipality, its ability to search and parse data, find information and track individuals, vehicles across multiple cameras throughout the city. That's why when I talked with Chris, we thought that might be the most suitable product going forward. That and the fact that you have a product that will work, you won't have any maintenance costs for 10 years.
So am I understanding that any technology upgrades during that 10-year period will be taken care of? under the proposed plan.
Yes, the software updates on the cameras. So basically, any failure to the hardware, you get a replacement. What they do is send something next day. And any software updates or feature enhancements, they push automatically to the camera. For example, one of the things that Chris brought to us is we need the cameras. He said we need the cameras to be able to do audio live. What they did before is they would, you could set them to record audio, but you could only see them when you viewed the history. He requested that we do it live. We went to Verkada. Verkada made an enhancement to the camera where you could listen to it live. They pushed it to the existing camera. And then those features are always being done to kind of meet the needs of the clients. During COVID, they created the ability to do contact tracing. An individual walks through, whether they have a mask or not, they track them across all cameras and every individual that they come in contact with. They did that for COVID. The same with groups of people. If people congregate together, it can detect and analyze that and report back to the operator of the system. So those are the kind of things that you get over a 10-year period.
And I don't dispute that Verkada's a superior technology compared to Ubiquity. We purchased these cameras in November 16, so just over 4 years. Yeah. But the question is, like Chris, I'd ask you, the items when you're talking about the Ubiquity announcement and obsolescence of their software platform. So I think the two products that you have to look at is the Unified Protect Network, NVR, and then they've got a smaller version because I asked you this the other day. So when we've got these Linux servers, they are staged in various levels. Some are 9 cameras, some are 50 cameras, and so these devices, and for example, the NVR that would bring us to current compliance with their platform on Unified Protect or whatever they call it, is $299. Okay, and I think that will provide 30 days of 4K video for up to 15 cameras with full HD with 50. So they're going in the same direction, right? So my point is just simply that, I'd also ask you to, number one, to look at what it would cost, and we're not trying to consider that tonight, but take a look at what are our critical areas, and then the other thing is, you mentioned that they got an end of year show. Well, we always have an end of year show. And so what would be another idea of a progression? Because again, I think council all agreed, or at least a majority, when we went with the Verkadas for these, high sensitivity, to make that kind of investment for 90 cameras in the park for that expense is kind of where I'm having trouble. Okay? So, some kind of a progression or extended obsolescence to phase these out, those in, whether we can get kind of a purchase agreement for a price over time with Verkada, if that's in fact the platform.
Well,
and those are just some of the issues I have.
We are working with trying to get Verkada to do a price lock-in. We are, and that's what I had brought to them. What if we bought, instead of buying the 100 cameras that we're asking for, what if we bought 30 now, 30 in 7 to 10 months, 30, and did it that route? And that way it would give us a little bit of a progression. Would they lock in the price? We just haven't got an answer back from them on that yet.
What are we looking at if we would purchase them now, total, turnkey?
It was $150,000.
$150,000.
Yes, sir. And that is for the entire cameras, all 100 cameras that we were looking to get. That's help with installation, not full installation, because myself and Josh are still going to be doing it. But that's a lot of cameras. So I did put into that help to get some of the cameras up.
And you're proposing a budget revision to do this? Is that my understanding?
Well, not tonight. I was wanting to, but it didn't go that route. So that's once we got to this discussion and got through this discussion, then I was, everything went that way. I was going to talk with the mayor after this and see if that was where we were going to go as for a budget revision on that. Either that, or I was going to put it into my budget for 21-22.
So I feel like we have an acute issue where there are a lot of cameras down right now, and they're in areas that can be vandalized and crime can happen, that kind of stuff. So
Yes,
I
ma'am.
feel like we have an acute issue that we need to deal with, and come up with some sort of a suitable solution for that. But then we also need to have a plan to replace. I also, you know, my iPhone will be, I won't be able to upload anything to it probably in 2 years because that's just the way things work. So what I don't want to see us do is possibly have to shell out $150,000 every 10 years. You know, if we had some sort of a maintenance program, had some sort of a system for, you know, every, sort of like our, you know, computers in the office, you know, everybody's on a rotation. Okay, you two get a new computer this year, and next year these two get a new computer, and you're not buying new computers for everybody all at once. I also think we need to look at maybe tailoring the kind of cameras that are most effective for the areas where they are. Like Jim said, we don't need to sit and watch trees, but depending on what kind of traffic and high-risk areas they are, maybe we need different kind of cameras there. One more thought is I personally don't like to be up against like, but it's a really good deal, you know, because to me that kind of that I would rather have a plan for, okay, this is how we as a city, this is going to be our system for maintaining and purchasing and replacing our security network. All, like the whole thing, you know, it might be that we have a couple different brands, or we might have you know, the same brand but different stages of the brand that are located in different areas, and that way it's continuous and we have that continuity. So that would be my encouragement. Those are the things that are important to me. I do think we need to take care of the immediate needs of cameras that are down and get those areas covered. But then on top of that, and along with that, have some sort of an overall plan for where we're going with it.
I agree with Melissa on the how many cameras do we have down right now, Chris?
At my last count, there was 50. 50?
Yes, sir.
And we've got 50
They're
cameras.
they're still in place.
Excuse me, fellas. Mr. Bibby has the floor.
We've got 50 cameras down.
Yes, sir.
Who has been maintaining them since 2016?
I'm guessing it would have been Adam and Kyle up until August of last year, and then it was me. And August of last year, I took over. We replaced a few of those cameras, buying them, you know, sporadic here and there. And then we made some software upgrades that were recommended by Ubiquiti and brought a few of them back up. And they were up and running for a while, and then they just went out again, and I can't get them to come back up. I've tried everything. I've replaced the lines. I've replaced the cameras in there, and they don't seem to stay up and running. I know the network is there because I can go hook a laptop to it, and the network is there. It's just the cameras just are not. They won't power on.
The network is handling them. It's just the camera. Are they just not talking to the network?
I don't know what the issue is because I can't get into
They're
it
just
to see
dead.
logs. Yeah.
They're just dead.
Yeah,
right?
I can't
That's
get into it to see any logs.
Okay. Well, like I said, I agree with Melissa. I think we need to take a look at our critical areas first. Identify those, and see what we can do there, and then go from there. If you could continue to pursue the price lock-in, whether we do it by budget revision or through the budget request, which is coming up real soon, as you know.
Yes, sir.
So, I think that's kind of important to me, but, if we got critical areas where we need to, we need to shoot some cameras in that direction, we need to identify those, in my opinion, right away.
Well, I can tell you right now, on the front side of the community building, I have one Verkada camera and one Ubiquity camera. That Ubiquity camera is one that I physically installed. There wasn't one there before. I physically put that camera in when I started here, and it no longer works. And the Verkada camera is plugged into the exact same network and exact same switch, and it is up and running just fine.
Sorry,
So,
real quick. Sorry, is there any chance that, I thought of this the other day after the budget and finance, is there any chance that the two are not cooperating with each other?
No.
That maybe there's lines are crossed and
No.
they're just not getting along because they're both trying to talk to the same thing?
no,
Okay.
that would be, no, they both have different IP addresses, so there's no IP conflict on that. They both go to two different places, so it's not, there's no, it's not, there's
They're not
just-
competing with
no.
each other, okay.
No, ma'am.
So there are two things to be considered here as we talk about this. Whatever happens has to be bid, okay, because it's gonna be over $10,000, so it have to
Yes,
go
sir.
through the bidding process. The second thing is, if it's held until the budget for next year, the funds will not be available until July 1st. So we'll have to be down in the situation we are now until next budget year, okay?
Mhm.
So those are the two things that procedurally we have to do.
And I don't have, as of January 1st, with our current infrastructure, I don't have cloud visibility to our current NVRs anymore. I have to physically be on site to view stuff. So I can't, if somebody calls me and says, hey, can you look at this? I can't do it from home anymore. I have to, or from wherever I'm at. I can't pull it up on my phone because it is no longer supported on our current infrastructure with Ubiquity.
So, Chris, I have a question for you.
Uh-huh.
Is it possible to lease these cameras versus buying them?
With leasing versus buying, I've gone that route as well. You're still paying, you're just paying forever versus paying, the one fee. And there's not a total savings that I've ever found through leasing, especially when it comes to high-end computer equipment. It comes with a maybe, God, what do you say, about maybe a 5% savings on leasing over buying.
So is it possible to evaluate that, to see those numbers? I mean, because we're talking about technology, it just,
Yeah, technology changes. I mean, that's what I've been told for 26 years is the only constant in technology has changed. So, but I mean, when you find something that has in this industry, you find something that has a warranty like this on it, that's a good deal. Because most, even Cisco, who is the leading network retailer, they have a 3-year warranty on their stuff. So, I mean, and Cisco's been around, God, since 70s, I think. So, and they only do 3-year on their stuff. So,
but you could get that information.
I can look into it.
I know
Joe.
for me, I would feel more comfortable of knowing what the options were other than just shelling out, $150,000. If that it was a leasing situation. I agree with Melissa wholeheartedly that I was really surprised to find out that we had like 50 cameras that aren't working, and especially if those cameras are in the park, which is very concerning to me. I had a family member actually a year and a half ago whose car was broken into at McDonough Park, and that now here we are a year and a half later, and we're still in the same situation. So I think it's a priority, and I want to see something happen. But I think for me, I want to evaluate all the options.
And I do have a roadmap of where I'm going with our network and with our infrastructure and everything. There's a bunch of pieces that play into this, and this is now going on 6 months for these cameras that I've been discussing this and trying to get these. So it's not a snap decision that I've made. So I mean that's just where I've been on that. So, and I mean, like I said, I'll be more than happy to go over my entire roadmap, of what I'm looking to do. Not on this camera, but whenever if you guys want to.
Yeah, I think options are great. Like, give us as many options and as many different scenarios that we can choose from so that we can make the best decision possible. Even if some might be a long shot or some might be almost a given no, but go ahead and show us what there is so that we can make a good decision about it.
Okay. Yeah, I was hoping to have a little bit more time between budget and finance than this, but only had 2 days. So, I don't have anything else on.
All right, Chris, if you gather that information and get it back to us. Jim, if you'd be available, if Chris has any questions or whatever, you can probably help with that if you would, please.
And I've got those 4 cameras sitting in my office. I'll give them to you before you leave tonight.
All right. Thank you.
Right.
Joe, thanks for coming up.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Mr. Skogstad has asked me that we scratch item number 7 this evening until he prepares a written resolution. It's a simple thing. The fire department wants to buy a truck. It is in the budget, and it was off-state bid, which means it does not have to go out for bid. But because the resolution language is not prepared, we will put that off. Steve, I'm sorry. It'll go on next month's, our next meeting on the 28th. All right? So we'll get that resolution prepared, if you would, Mr. Skogstad, all right? Okay?
Yep.
All right. With that, that concludes our agenda for this evening. We move to council comments. Does anyone have anything they'd like to speak about tonight?
Yeah, I got a few things. I'll go first. First of all, as we get into the budget season, I know it's always tense time, but I think you guys have elected a good council. I think we'll all get along and we'll get through this, and I'm not worried about it. So, but the one thing I would like to see, and Mr. Azinger, he's the liaison for the police department. I met with Chief Piper, and I know Tom talked to him too. I would like to look at somehow this year to get our police officers raises. I know we've given them across the board. But I know Chief Piper has submitted some numbers and things, so I'd really love to see our police department get raises for our officers. So that's one thing I urge our council to look at when we go through this budget process. And also, I would like to put on the agenda, Melissa, the public forum to be included in the minutes. I think what Jack was saying was on my mind when I came in here tonight, and I know we talked about it at some of the public election things. So I would like to see the public forum on the agenda to a discussion and a vote to bring the public forum to be included in the minutes. And my last thing is, of course, I'm liaison for Mayor Rapp for the Parks and Rec and the Rec Board. So we had our meetings these past couple weeks with Parks and Recs. I think I need to do a better job of informing the citizens of what goes on at these meetings and stuff. And one of the things that we've talked about is we need, now my son's 13, baseball, once you get above out of Little League, baseball's not around here because the soccer field is taking over the baseball field where the Babe Ruth used to play, where I used to play. I'm sure Jim used to play, things like that. So my thing is we need a soccer complex, not an indoor. I know we've talked about this before, but I think it can be done. And this is where I'd rely on maybe Jim Leach as far as he knows all the land covenants. We have a hill over there, and you guys have seen that hill, and it's right beside Sleigh Ride Hill. We talked about it last week, or in our meeting last night. Sleigh Ride Hill, it's been used twice this year. As far as, and we have over 500 kids playing soccer. So my thing is, we have a large hill over there that's ours. The city owns it. We hear all kinds of stories about what we can do it, what we can't do it. So I would really love to. I know, Jim, you're an old washed-up football coach, so I know you're an athlete yourself, so I'd really like to use your resources and your knowledge on what we can do. We've talked about doing things, but every year our soccer program is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, but it interferes with our baseball. I think about, Vienna is we're known for retail, but I think what do we have? Because people now, they drive 1, 2, 3 hours. My neighbor drives to Charleston to work every day, but he loves Vienna. So what can we do as a city? Because right now we can't bring in a big business, put John Mansville kind of on a hold right now. But what can we do to entice people to live in our city? Well, the biggest thing is families. What can families do? We have a beautiful park here. You know, I know Steve's done a good job and his crew with adding some equipment for playgrounds and stuff, but we just don't have the sports space for our kids. And I think about enticing people to live in our city, what's there for my kids. We talked about there's nothing to do from 12 to 18-year-olds, and there's nothing. I mean, because you know, if soccer is not going on, baseball gets canceled. So they're sharing this complex. But we have a big hill. We have Sleigh Ride Hill. We own that property. We've got to do something with that hillside. So I would like to form a committee. I know this city, you know, we have enough big business people, and we just need a driving force behind that. And I don't know what I'm doing. I just have the vision to have it, make it happen, you know. So I would like to reach out to businesses, form a committee to see what we can do about Sleigh Ride Hill and that big hill beside it. Not get rid of the Sleigh Ride Hill. We can move that. But my big thing is to have somebody have a vision for what we can put up there. We don't need an indoor sports complex. Yes, we could work toward that. We just need a flat place of ground, and we have all that stuff, and we could make a flat piece of ground somewhere. And so next council meeting, I'd like to have put on the agenda to have either Jack Mather or Steve Black come and talk about the master plan for the park. So we can get this conversation going, get some input back. So I'd like to have that on the next council, whether it's Jack Mathers. I know Jack Mathers and I are going to walk that trail, walk that hillside. He's going to show me where there are boundary lines in their stuff. But the opportunity is there, and I think there's a need in our community with this stuff. So next council meeting, we'll have somebody come address us with the master plan if we can do that. Just a discussion, Mayor. And that's it.
Other council comments?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. I had a couple of comments. My first comment was with regard to the treasurer's report. So I would like to see that actually be a report, not, you know, the bills are paid and we're solvent. I mean, I looked over the reconciliation. I look over them every month. But like this particular reconciliation, we were down $314,000, and I'm curious as to why. What does this mean? And I'm also curious about how we're doing with the CARES Act money. You know, what do we get? Is that over with? Are we anticipating any more money, et cetera? And I mean, so I'm a little. I would just prefer something that's a little bit more spelled out so we have a better idea, because it's, you know, it's not really very helpful just to know that our bills are paid and we're solvent. But so I would hope that we can look at maybe being a little bit more detailed on that report. My other thing that I was interested in was, so today I saw where the city is going to put out flyers with regards to Spencer's Landing to get public input, and I think that's a great first step. Okay, I had some people contact me. Everybody's very interested in what's going to happen with Spencer's Landing, and they really want that public input. And while the flyers are a good first step, that's kind of like a one-way street, because you don't have the participation from everybody. And I understand we're sensitive right now because of the COVID protocols, but I do believe that we could do a meeting that would involve the public, that may be part, like at the community building or even in this building, where you could have a certain amount of people, and then link everybody up through Zoom so that we really get this community involvement. Because I hear it over and over again, you know, we want community involvement. And it's just like the story walk happened, which, okay, fine, but people were calling me, well, aren't we gonna get community involvement? And I didn't understand until I saw it on WTAP that was a grant that was from the Friends of the Library. And so I didn't understand why the council wasn't involved. So what I'm getting at is that this transparency and community involvement with Spencer's Landing, I think we'd be best served if we really focus on that and let the community have their say.
Jim, if you'd work with Amy to see about getting a little more on the reconciliation of funds as far as the number changes and what have you.
Sure. And, you know, with respect to the reconciliation of funds, sure, you know, it is basically reconciliation of funds in Dropbox. It's available to us, and it is a snapshot, all right? And so if you know, for example, 345, and whatever it is you're looking at, there are fluctuations depending on budget actions that we've taken, expenditures that are approved. And if you follow that from month to month, you kind of see that, and you know, for example, when encumbrances are returned, okay, at the end of the fiscal year, all right, you see that influx. You see monies that were budgeted, that were not used, that were returned to the general fund, and so on. And so, first of all, it is a useful tool if you look at it and you follow it and you pay attention. Now, with respect to the treasurer's report each month, you know, I don't see a utility in sitting here and spending 20 minutes going through the transactions that have occurred in the past month. I think that if there are things significant that vary from what we've expected and improved in budgets, you know, perhaps also as we enter this budget, for example, something I think would be useful is to talk about the, you know, what budgeted funds weren't expended. But, you know, sometimes, like for instance, every year we put in 15 grand in case we have to tear down a house. Well, we don't have to tear down a house very often, okay? And so to spend time on why that $15,000 is carried in return, you know, it's kind of, so I get what you're saying, Kim, but I'm saying but we already have, if you use it like it's intended, we have a pretty good tool that shows the flow of our finances and that in fact we are fiscally solvent and that the accounts are in order. So certainly I'll do that with Amy. I don't have an objection. And I have a comment.
Well, let me finish for
Sure,
one
go ahead.
second. The other thing that I would mention to each and every one of you all is every bit of this information is in the Dropbox at least 3 days prior to the meeting. If you have questions or you want any further information about these things in the Dropbox, Kim, call Amy. She'll tell you where every dollar's at, and she'll give you an update of all of these different things. There are no secrets. It's, you know, it's public knowledge. So it's the same thing. If you have these things, all you have to do is call and ask questions because they'll answer them for you. All right?
Yes, sir, but
You mentioned about the CARES money. The governor has now said the states or the cities and the counties will no longer receive any CARES Act money. Okay, so we did get reimbursed for the second half of December, which was very good. So our total for the month of December was about $150,000, which is about what it's been the previous months before that. All right, but that's it. And all of that CARES Act money is sitting in a separate line item. It has not been spent. It is sitting there. All right. So all of the money that we have gotten from the government is still there. All right. So, Mr. Leach, what else?
Well, just with respect to that, also, not just Amy, although I don't want to get blindsided, okay? If you want to know something about budget and finance, give me a heads up, you know, because if I'm in here and I'm not prepared to answer your questions because you haven't asked me in an opportunity, and of course we have limited ability to talk in a quorum, but certainly any council person could send me a question. But again, you know, I mean, I think this was the problem we had in our last term. We had too many times when it was just like, bang, what's this? And like, hell, I don't know. You know, why didn't you ask me 3 days ago and I could be prepared? So that's what I'll ask for with respect to that. As far as rounding out, if you've got specific, you know, I'm not agreeing, I'll agree to it. I mean, but I'll look at it and we can have a conversation about it. There's nothing that you and I talking about it. But as far as my council comment is with respect to the public forum. You know, when this came up before, I voted against it. And I voted against it because of the way that it was presented. And I've given it some thought, you know, in the interim and also before it came up. Public comments that are not a part, we don't even convene our meeting until after the comments are done. And so I took an idea from if, you know, and again, there appears to be support on council for some inclusion of the public's input, you know, for our deliberations and consideration. So the idea that I had is, you know, if it's quote unquote a part of the minutes, then Melissa's, you know, sitting here trying to keep all of this. What the League of Women Voters does, and we've all done it, so we're familiar. If you want to make a statement, you get, you know, we have a sign-in sheet, and it's the same thing preparation. So I think a compromise for this, because it's not a part of the official business of the city, but it is important to our consideration, is that you have the opportunity list your name, list your topic, and then have, just like the League of Women Voters, if you remember, for each question you have a 60-word limit to state your case, so that we're not getting reams of information. And you should be able to succinctly, sufficient to preserve your topic or your point in the record of the City of Vienna's minutes without overburdening, you know, you know, we get a stack of paper like this. You know, so that would be my proposal. We're gonna reconsider this, that we provide a format that's manageable, that gives people sufficient opportunity to make their point, preserve their topic as a part of the record of our proceedings, and yet not disrupt, you know, the ability to manage the information that we're trying. So that's my point.
So the point that Jim made, and I agree, I voted no the last time. There are certain things that go into the permanent record, and I have read the minutes for the city of Vienna well back into the early 40s. I've read every one of them. And so when you go back that way, as you read the business of the city, that's what the minutes are for, the business of the city. And I can tell you, you know, there are some very disrespectful people that come to do the public forum that we allow them 5 minutes to speak on any topic that they want. Now remember that, any topic that they want. And so if someone walks up to that counter right there and they say, you guys have to know what my Aunt Ann's favorite apple pie recipe was, and then they stand there and read that recipe, it's perfectly within our bounds, and then she has to put it in the minutes, okay? And that's the problem that I have with that, is the public forum is where you come before council to speak about issues that you're concerned about, and then we deal with them as a issue that comes before us. And that's the issue that I have with that, is the minute books that we have now are huge. And if you put all of that in there, you're going to double that. And so that's my only caution for that, is because I like the public comments. I like to hear the things that people are concerned about. But as far as putting it down and writing it word for word, you're either going to have to limit the scope, or you're going to have to find some way to where it pertains to city business and not just 5 minutes to talk about whatever you want.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jim, on this. There needs to be some kind of agreement about what the content is, the format needs to be, because I don't want Melissa having to sit there and write every word down. So yeah, some kind of, and we'll talk about it. I know we can't talk about it now.
No, it's not that.
All right.
But you guys can talk about anything that you want to, and you plan on putting on the agenda. You just can't take any action on it.
Okay.
So we're just talking about something
All right.
that we're going to agenda later. I mean, you probably can save some of this discussion for later, but
So, okay.
I don't want to interrupt you.
That's
Oh,
fine.
no, you're fine, buddy.
There's a couple things that come to my mind relative to the public comments, and think about this for a minute. The deer ordinance issues and the deer feeding issues. My good gracious, could you imagine all of that going into the official minutes of the council meeting? That was meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting, where that was probably the main topic in the public forum. It's extensive, and not that it wasn't a problem, but that would be a tremendous amount of information that the recorder would have to put in the minutes of the meeting. So, you know, I don't know. I mean, gosh, I mean, it could be a lot. It could be extensive. I mean, if there was a way to do it with, you know, some brevity and you know, limited recording, I don't know, but it would have the potential, depending on the subject,
Yeah.
to be a lot of work.
I do, I'll speak up since, I would be the one putting it in. Just a couple quick, I have a comment about that, and I have a comment about a couple other things. I also think it would be helpful if we had some sort of a format, but I do know that there is some, liberty that recorders can take on how much information is put in. There's some things, like you have to have these things, listed. You have to have the date, you have to have the place, you have to have who was there, and stuff like that. But then there are times, you know, that there's limited information. It might be 2 or 3 sentences about, you know, what happened. And my predecessor was really good about being very detailed about things, and she explain things and you felt like maybe you were there, and that's good. But that is something that as I go, I will have my own system and my own style of recording. And so just with that being said, every council meeting is not necessarily going to be 5 pages long. You know, they may be 1 page occasionally. So there is some flexibility in how long the minutes are for each council. So I also agree that if we had a set form or something like that, or if they're just read, if you prepare it ahead of time, it's typed out, and you read it and then submit it, then I don't have to write anything if you're gonna read it verbatim. So that's my comment there. Another thing is about the financial stuff that we have in our Dropbox. This is mostly me being new and needing to know these kinds of things. It's open to the public, but the public doesn't have our Dropbox kind of thing. So like, I know the public doesn't have our Dropbox. However, if it's city financial stuff, how would they see the reconciliation of funds if they had a question? That kind of thing. Does that make sense? I'm trying to figure out.
When the agenda is posted, all of the supporting documents are with it on the website.
Okay.
Okay. So they go to the website and they look, and you'll see this is what the council agenda is, and you can read whatever the resolutions are or whatever, and the reconciliation of funds is there. Okay. No. If the public has a question about some financial issue, then I would not recommend that they call Amy Roberts because she's busy.
Yeah.
Okay? If you have a question, then I would suggest you come and ask it before council, or you call one of your council members and ask them.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so reconciliation of funds is on the website 3 days before council, and that's an opportunity for the public to take a look at it and review it. And
Correct.
Okay, awesome.
With regards to the financial report, so just so I'm clear, Mr. Leach, I wasn't suggesting that you give a detailed version of it, just a basic thumbnail. And once again, I mean, just like what you're talking about, if the public can see, gosh, you're following these around every month, which I do, and then you see this drop in revenue, what explains that? So that's what I'm just saying, just a thumbnail, broad stroke, 30,000 foot view of where we are with our finances. It's just the same statement at the beginning of every month. It doesn't tell us anything.
Okay. All right. Tom?
I'd just like to say amen to what Councilman Sampson said. I think we take seriously the compensation when the budget comes up. I think we need seriously.
On the next council agenda for the 28th, that will be on the agenda as a discussion point.
Cool.
We're going to talk about that. All right. So we'll give you an opportunity there, Tom, to do whatever you need. All right. So I have one last thing that I would like to make you all aware of this evening. Unfortunately, we've lost one of our valued people that works for the city, William Crichton, who has been our city judge for a number of years, and I don't know how many years it's been, Russell. It's been a long time. Anyway, so Judge Crichton has resigned. Tuesday night's meeting will be his last meeting, and so before February the 3rd, we're going to have to find a new police judge, new city court judge, to replace him, because we have to continue with that process. So
we have a process in place for that. The city court will continue, but we're going to have to find a permanent person to
correct.
do it.
All right. But at any rate, I just want to go on the record as saying Judge Crichton did an absolutely terrific job, and we're going to miss him because he gave us years and years of service. So we will now have to find a new city judge.
Mayor, before you close the meeting, I just want to, as the city attorney, address the public forum issue. I've heard a couple of ideas. Here's what I said. I'm the city attorney. If you have a public forum, if you don't have a public forum, that's legal. If you have a public forum, there are certain things that you have to do. People have a First Amendment right. How you record it, that's a matter of the record, how the recorder's gonna do it, or how the city elects to do it as far as passing the ordinance. But you absolutely cannot have any kind of content, well, you have to either have no content restrictions, or you have to have content restrictions that say you can only speak about items that are on the agenda, or you could have one that says you can only speak about items that are not on the agenda. But that's about it. I mean, now I recommend that, my recommendation is you always just, whether I like it or not, and whether I'm insulted or not, and sometimes I have been, you let people say whatever they want to say. And that's, if you have a public forum, you absolutely, if you don't have a guideline in place, you absolutely have to do that. I don't think that you can require people to prepare statements ahead of time so that they can be recorded in the minutes. Now, I think you could ask, hey, if you want to suggest it, hey, if you want to do that, that'd be great. That'll make it easier to put it in our books. But I don't think you can say, in order to participate in our public forum, you have to have a prepared statement that has to be submitted to council. I don't think you can do that. I think that's a restriction.
I don't want to interrupt, but can you say, if you want to make a record, to continue with the official business of the city, okay, then you need to put it on the form. If you want to just come and speak, and you're not worried about it becoming part of the record, can you do that?
I think so. But right now, and I hate to say that, I'm not confident in giving a definitive answer right now. But I am confident in saying that I don't think that you can restrict what, in our forum, I don't think you can require people to prepare what they're going to say ahead of time just so that it can be recorded with the minutes. All right? There are limitations, but those limitations, those are constitutional protections, and we closely guard and protect our liberties, or at least we're supposed to. We've got some people, never mind. I would just caution you, if you think about anything that's a content restriction, think real long and hard about whether you really think that that's valuable, because that can get you into more trouble than what you think.
Okay, so the last thing that I have is every one of you should have received a memo from Amy with the schedule for the budget hearings and budget presentations from all of the department heads and all of the other activities that we have. And so please look at those, and please make sure that if you have any scheduling conflicts, that you let us know as soon as possible, because we are going to start the budget process the 1st of February. All the department heads have already turned in all their budget proposals, and so Amy is working now to take the revenue numbers and project where we're going to be, so that when we start, you all will know how we have to divide the dollars that we have. So, all right. With that, meeting adjourned.